which is now owned by Louis Roederer, which is also a family-owned company. So just a bigger company, but it's still very much owned by the Rousseau family. And Graham Wehmeier is the winemaker. We're going to taste Volcanic Hill, which is one of your most representative wines. But you and the Bronstein family, from the very beginning, was focused on single vineyard wines from within an estate. So it's kind of a continuation of a long story. But thanks for being here, and tell us a little bit about your wine.
Sure. Thank you, Antonio. Always great to be part of this group. In the late 60s, when Al Bronstein planted Diamond Creek on this little 20-acre contiguous piece halfway up Diamond Mountain, long before Diamond Mountain was an appellation, he didn't have a geologist on staff. He didn't do any fancy soil pits. He really just got lucky. And he didn't even know what he had in the beginning almost until he put vines in the ground. But almost right away, he saw he had something special. As you go just from one side of the creek to the next, just a few feet away, the soil changes really dramatically. And then the same thing at a smaller creek where it joins the main creek. Same thing. Soil changes just within a few feet to something completely different. And Al called it as he saw it. It gave the vineyards the descriptive, if not very creative, names of Volcanic Hill, Red Rock Terrace, and Gravelly Meadow. And thus began a 50-plus year now experiment, celebration, study in terroir and what you can get in winemaking from these distinctive little pieces of land. With the Volcanic Hill, I think there are three kind of key points to the vineyard to understanding Volcanic Hill, both not only in the context of Diamond Creek, but in Napa Valley as a whole. The first being the aspect. It has the unusual feature of being a southern, relatively steep southern aspect on Diamond Mountain, which most of the appellation, because of how the mountain is shaped, is a northeast. So Volcanic Hill, one of the few exceptions to that, and a much warmer microclimate because of that. Not too warm in that it's not, so we have the cool nights of the lower elevation. And we also have the fog influence, so we're down in the fog layer, which in Calistoga, in this part of the valley, actually comes in straight from Sonoma, straight from the Russian River, as opposed to most of Napa, where it comes up from the bay. So we're in the fog. It's cool, but it's still warm. It's the warmest part of Diamond Creek for sure. The second point is the soil itself, which obviously is volcanically derived, but that's not super descriptive since there are almost infinite types of volcanic soil in Napa Valley. In this case, it's the powdery, ashy, really light, similar to what Mike was talking about. It's Sacrochet, technically rhyolitic tuff, if as the geologists would say. But the key for us is it's really well drained, but also very, very shallow. So you might think that the roots would go down deep with the well-drained aspects, but they can't because the acidity is so strong, just a foot or two down, that the roots stop. And so the vines struggle pretty significantly, and you have, you just have those really low yields and tiny berries that you get from struggling vines. Which leads to the third key, which is that it's related. It's the only irrigated vineyard of Diamond Creek. So it's because of that shallow rootedness, Volcanic Hill needs regular water through the season, in contrast to Red Rock and Gravelly Meadow. 2021 was a turning point for a new chapter, I guess, for Diamond Creek. As Antonio mentioned, well, it was the first full year for me, and the first full year for the new ownership. The Rousseau family of Champagne, Louis Roederer, had been friends with the Bronsteins for decades, really. On one of Alan Boots' trips to France in the early 90s, they met the Rousseaus. It was actually Jean-Claude Rousseau throwing himself a 50th birthday party and inviting just vintners from around the world was how they met. But they stayed friends, and over the years, when when the Bronstein family made the decision to sell, Roederer became the new owners. The changes since then have been mostly viticultural, I would say. The vineyard needed some revitalizing. We still have the same in-house vineyard crew. It's only 4 guys, but they've got over 100 years collectively at the property, which I feel very lucky for. But with Roederer being a pioneer in organics and biodynamics, we took the logical step of certifying organic and doing some replanting and really just revitalizing soils, cover cropping, and working on setting things up for the next 50 years, soil-wise. Winemaking has always been super bare bones at Diamond Creek. Going back to the 70s and these legendary wines there, they were made in these little redwood open tops with no winery, literally out in the vineyard. We don't use those anymore. We switched to stainless, but they're still little, like 2-person hot tub sized open tops. And yeah, the focus is to keep the winemaking as stripped down, as minimalistic as possible, so that it's more about the vineyard. Last point to make on the wine itself, what's in your glass here. I think with the way these vines struggle, the tiny berries and the tiny yields, we always have plenty of power and concentration with Volcanic Hill, and the challenge for us is always to kind of rein that in and make a wine with elegance and beauty. And so to that end, I think the other subtle tweaks in the winemaking that we've made have been just dialing back extraction a little bit, picking a little bit earlier, turning the oak down a little bit, and trying everything we can to really focus on the vineyard and ultimately just double down on the original philosophy of Diamond Creek, which was that the celebration of the site and the individuality and the singularity of these vineyards.
Thank you, Graham.
Thank you.
Graham's too modest to tell you, but I'll